What up, world? I'm Mike Folden, and this is an interview. An online friend, an acquaintance, also supporter of Mike Folden Productions. Jason had hit me up recently. He's wanting to take his photography to the next level and go full time, but he's had a lot of sort of questions and concerns about doing so and quitting the day job, going full time, creative. And so he had asked me if I'd be down to help him out a little bit with some questions. And so he sent me some questions. And I figured why not make a video a little bit more fun, and hopefully I can kind of point to this when somebody asks me, what are some of the struggles, or how'd you get into doing it full time? Because I do get asked that a lot, and it's hard to give everybody the just one unique, one answer, because there's so many variables, I think, of how to go full-time creative. But I'm going to give this my best. So there's, I think, 5 questions. I'll go ahead and 6 questions, I should say. And we'll go ahead and answer those for you, and I'll read them off. So question 1, April 14th, 2011. You probably remember that day pretty well. That was the last day you were on the schedule at the South Lake Bar and Grill, where you'd be working for 5 years, and the first day that you were a full-time photographer. Is that right? What sort of fears and worries did you have about finally making the leap? That's almost right. I was working at the Lake Forest Bar and Grill. Same company, though. I was previously at the South Lake Bar and Grill. Anyways, the fears and worries, of course, were, how am I going to pay my bills? It was a big deal. And in short, what happened is I was doing this video for T.A. McCann, founder of Gist and many other great things. And I sat down with him. It was kind of the first big video, and super nervous. And we were setting up and everything. And finally, I was bring him on in. So he comes in, he sits down, and he just goes, "Whatever you're charging me, I want you to charge double, because I want to invest in your entrepreneur career." And I was like, "Whoa, okay." And that day was amazing. That day was a really, really big day. And I could just feel that, like, things were moving in the right direction, and it was sort of, I had this opportunity. And basically what happened was, it was kind of simple math. Like, I had enough to live off of for 2 months to pay rent, pay all my bills, food, all that stuff. And, if I didn't, basically for me, if I didn't make it after 2 months, I could get my job back at the grill. I mean, these guys, I didn't have any bad relationships or anything. It was a very, very good exit there. And so they were totally cool. I had nothing to lose. I could go back to doing exactly what I was doing, or I could just give this a shot. So I didn't have to live off for 2 months. And my worries of course, surviving, how am I going to make my money, blah, blah, blah. Those were basically all my worries. But I was so excited to change my lifestyle after, I've been waiting tables for 10 years and slowly progressing at this photography and whatnot. So I was ultimately just really excited. I hope that answers your question. Question 2, you've worked for some gigantic companies in your short time as a pro. What was it like working for RIM, BlackBerry, AT&T, REI, and even Microsoft? So it's a good question. And it's weird. Like, it's really cool a lot of times working for big companies, because you're working for a big company. But there's definitely a lot of hands in the pot. And so it's, I think a lot of my job isn't just being a photographer or a videographer or whatever. Like, you're a producer, like you're a manager, you're business development. And so you learn a lot of skills outside of just photography when you run a business. I consider myself like a small business owner, an entrepreneur, and it's equally as fun to me as shooting photography, honestly. Like, I really like the just working. I don't know. Do I like going through emails and having phone calls and bidding and stuff like that? Not necessarily, but at the same time, it's really cool because you feel really established. Like, you're getting the respect from these big companies to get these jobs. And so I guess, what is it like working with these companies? REI is awesome to work for. I freelance for them often, kind of moving up the chain there. AT&T was kind of just a weekend gig. They were actually really cool. It was sort of a side project of theirs, so there wasn't a bunch of corporate hands in the pot. RIM was pretty great to work with as well, and Microsoft was good as well. The Microsoft thing, there was definitely a lot of people sort of involved, which made it a little difficult, but again, it was like, I always try to figure out, like, if something's not working smoothly, how can I fix it, and then how can I apply that to my future, another project, learn from your mistakes instead of just griping and complaining and complaining. So, yeah, like, it's been good. Like, ultimately, it's been good. You get a lot of respect when you work for like a big company from those companies, which is great. They just put the trust in you. You're going to do your job. We're going to pay you. Like, we don't really want to go back and forth or have late night phone calls like you do with some musicians. Anyways, question 3. You not only do still photography, but your video work is incredible as well. Thank you. What started getting you into video production? What is your favorite video job to date? Do you have any behind the scenes stuff on your videos? Man, honestly, I moved into a studio with Ari Shapiro in 2011, and I just had picked up a 5D from a dude who rebuilt it, got a super stellar deal, and I was like, oh, I should document our move-in, our painting and our hanging our backdrop and our coat racks, and it was an exciting time getting the studio. We were super stoked. It was very exciting. So I just really started just doing these little like short behind-the-scenes kind of videos. And a friend of mine, Chris Wojcik of Wojcik Films, he had been shooting a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff of my photography, which was awesome. So I sort of had a little bit of a template and someone to base my shooting off of because he was doing a great job. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And basically, like, I just showed friends, and people were like, "Man, you're like, these videos are cool. Like, what are you shooting this on? And how are you doing this?" And I was like, "Okay, cool." And it just felt really at home to me. Like, I love photography, and actually, just recently, I've sort of rediscovered my love for photography. But there's something about like video, like the movement and the story that you create, where sometimes I was trying to do that with photos and you couldn't, because you have one frame. It's a lot more difficult. And sometimes people just simply don't want that. Like, they don't want a big story. They just want a photo on a brick wall, and it's fine. But with video, it's like you kind of have to tell a story. So I was really compelled by that. And I like the movement. I like sort of the room for error. You don't have to always be tack sharp focus. It's kind of, you can pull in and out of focus, and there's many frames. And so that really, I was just really excited about it. What's my favorite video job to date? Wow. That's really tough. Honestly, like, just right off the top of my mind, one of my favorite ones, I would say, was shooting for Iconic Adventures down in Steamboat. It just felt like a really cool trip. I traveled to Denver, and then, that was like a 3-hour flight. And then I took a shuttle from Denver all the way to Steamboat, which was like, man, that took forever. Like, it equally took the amount of time to get to like France to get to Steamboat. It was really weird. But when I got there, it was like this super cool little mountain time, and I've snowboarded for years, and this little mountain town, I should say, and I've snowboarded for years, and it was just like, it was awesome. It was a super cool vibe. And Joe Solomon runs this company where like they run adventures. Like, they take people around the world on these awesome trips and guide them. And that was really cool. And they were all really passionate. It was beautiful. I got to shoot some really cool stuff, and just sort of, it was just really, I don't know, that's a very memorable trip. So I would say that's probably one of my favorites. Do I have any behind the scenes stuff? No, or very little. I'm working on it, really, really trying to get sort of an intern or someone to help out to start documenting some stuff. I personally need a video of my own telling my story. So no, I don't, but I need some desperately. So if you're out there, anybody who wants to shoot some behind the scenes footage of some of my video work, just what I do, hit me up. Gear-wise, what do you use? Nikon guy, Canon, something else? What brands of lights are you using? Also, are your lighting setups different from stills from video? If so, are they roughly the same? I'm a Canon guy. Honestly, I don't really care about Canon, Nikon, Sony, Olympus. It doesn't really matter. I happened to get a 5D, and in my opinion, it was the best video SLR out at that time. Now, there's so many friggin' options, and I'm just invested in the glass, so I'm sticking with Canon. I shoot on the Mark II and the 60D, although I'm not really that stoked on the 60D as of late, so I think I'm going to make the move and get a Mark III 5D, and then keep my other Mark II 5D. What brands of lights are you using? Interesting question. So I just bought some cheap Cowboy Studio continuous tungsten lights, and was setting them up tonight, and one of them just quit working, and I just got them. So I was a little skeptical on buying some cheap lights, but I've sort of, everything I've shot on video so far, I've used just little square LED lights, like $50 on Amazon. I'm sort of a budget guy. Like, I don't really like to spend a bunch of money on stuff until I know I need it. Definitely people see my setup and they make fun of me, but it's all good. So I think I'm going to get a couple ARRI lights or ARRI lights. I've been looking at those guys. I think it's the 150, the 350 and the 650. I think I'm going to get like at least a couple of those. And they are different than video and photo, yes. So I use strobes when I shoot photos. I have used my little LEDs on a couple photo shoots, but not really. They just don't pump off enough light, so I typically use strobes. I use an Alien B800 and then two SB28s, just little pocket strobes. Question 5, what other jobs, gigs do you have lined up for the next few months? Anything that you're really excited about? REI's been going really well. I've been really stoked working with those guys. I've been doing all in-studio stuff, which is, it's cool. It's not really creative. It's just sort of getting the job done, but you feel like a big crew. You're working with talent, and that's just fun. It's like part of a production, so that's really fun. And then I'm starting to get outside with them. So last week I went and shot some running stuff with them. Actually, I just assisted. And then this next week I'm going to go shoot some hiking stuff. And, hopefully there's some more stuff lined up. And I'm really into the adventure and outdoor stuff. So I want to continue to kind of work that way. And then also there's some other stuff that's on the come up that I can't quite talk about. But definitely there's a couple music videos I'm excited about. And then honestly, personal work. I'm really taking the time to do some more personal work these days. I just shot some running stuff with an ultra marathon athlete, Brian Estes. That's a funny moment. So we just hit the 12-minute marker on the Canon 5D, which you can only shoot a 12-minute clip. It's a major bummer. Mark III lets you shoot 29-minute clips, which is nice. So I can't imagine anybody really watching me talking, though, for 15 minutes. So anyways, last question was 6. And finally, what advice would you give to someone that really wants to make this jump to shooting full-time? Should you have a set amount of money put aside for it, specific amount of jobs ready and in the works? That's the million-dollar question. I think ultimately it's what works for you. For me, I was dying to do it. I was dying to make that leap. I went down from 5 days a week at the restaurant to 4 days a week to the restaurant to 3 days a week. And then I ended up working 2 double shifts a week. That was it. So Thursdays and Fridays, I'd work from 10 to 10. So I'd work 2 12-hour shifts. I'd make enough money to live off of for the whole month. And then anything else I was doing was just all photography and video, just trying to figure out how to get that business, writing my blog, keeping up with people, networking, lining things up. And, I was just dying to get into it. So for me, the minute that I knew that I could live off what I had in my bank for 2 months, which was very rare, I've always just never been someone to save money, never had much responsibility. So I just went for it, But to say, is that good for you? I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest thing to consider here is that, like, every day when you wake up, you're your own boss. So when you set your alarm clock, you don't have to wake up when that thing goes off. Like, no one's going to be yelling at you. No one's going to be waiting for you to show up, unless you have like a shoot or something scheduled. But ultimately, like, being a photographer full-time is being an entrepreneur, and it's being a business owner, and it's being a manager and a business developer guy, and it's being, you're going through emails. I mean, I at least spend 15 hours a week going through emails and building relationships and phone calls. Just that. So, my only advice would be that know that it's more than photography. You can be an amazing photographer, but if you don't know how to pull in business and keep business going and, have integrity, show up on time, and be accountable, and responsible, you're not going to get work, because the word travels quick. And if you do a good job, word travels quick. And I've worked my ass off. And man, I can't say thank you enough to the people in the startup community and the music industry. They've given me so much praise, and I can't thank them enough. So thank you guys. But But yeah, like it's more than just like shooting photography or shooting video. Like there's way more to it. And so, of course, if you have, if you can save 5 or 10 grand and like have a few months to sort of like figure it out, absolutely. But at the same time, like I almost feel like it's better to not even have that, because then you're going to be hustling. You're going to be shooting. You're going to be making money no matter what. You're not going to have any lazy or downtime because you need to get your ass out there and shoot. I fluctuate huge. Sometimes I'll make a ton of money in a month or two, and then I won't make anything for a month or two. And I go through ups and downs. Sometimes I'm working a ton and getting super amped, and then sometimes I just go down and I don't want to work that much. But you got to stay consistent with it. At the end of the day, you can have a day or two down, but you can't have a down week. You're always on top of it. And at that same time, I would say that I've made a promise to myself to never be too busy to have fun. Make sure that you're enjoying, because ultimately you're working for yourself for a reason. You're working for yourself so you can do what you love and enjoy your life as much as you can. Because I'll tell you right now, like it's super stressful. There's tons and tons and tons of stress and issues that will get in your way and want to push you out of the business. But at the same time, it's amazing. I can go mountain biking on a Thursday morning if I want. I can go leave midweek. I can leave on a weekend, whatever. I build my own schedule, and it usually builds out for a couple months. It's awesome. So my advice, I guess, would just be have that conversation with yourself. Is it something? I mean, of course, if you have a kid and a wife and a house and things like that, like don't go losing your mortgage. Maybe be a little bit smarter. I had rent. I had no kids, no nothing. Like it was no big deal for me. So for me, it was I wanted to make the move, kind of like a startup would, and I was surrounded by a lot of startups at the time too, so they were inspiring me. These guys work out of their apartments. 3 dudes in there just grinding away on a business, and they make it happen. So that's what I wanted to do. So, man, I hope this was useful at all. This I realize is probably super long and maybe better for someone just to read, but hopefully this is beneficial to anybody out there looking to kind of go full time. And if there's other questions or anything, you can tweet at me at Mike Folden, MikeFolden.com. Yeah, like whatever. Look forward to Jason, you going live. I think it's close, man. I think you're ready to make that leap. And man, I'm stoked for you. And I'd love to. We got to meet. You got to come out here. I got to go out there. We got to link up and shoot some photos and figure some stuff out. I'd love to help you out as much as I can along the way. So, adios, everybody, and have a good night.